Welcome back to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast, a show all about inspiring smart, busy women to put their happiness at the top of their to-do list. Join your host and life coach, Dion Thompson, as she chats with amazing women who have figured out how to make their happiness a priority, and more importantly, what it's really like to go from hot mess to awesomeness. And now, on with the show.
Shake it all out. Shake it all out. Alrighty. Welcome everyone to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast. I am your host and life coach, Dion Thompson. All right, let's meet my amazing guest. Janna Arsenault who is a chronic pain expert. Oh my God, you guys are gonna love this. As an emotional and pain intuitive, Janna helps busy women with chronic back and neck pain gain hope, results, and freedom. Yes, please. What she is most passionate about is teaching women how to heal their pain through their emotions, become their own pain whisperer, and get back to the life they are meant to live. Holy shit. Okay, so because I love to let everybody know that's great. I love that you do all those things, but my experience meeting you and learning about your story fucking blew my mind. And maybe it was because I was in a little bit the early days of me understanding how the body truly works and how your mind, which by the way, in case you didn't know this, is attached to your body, and whatever you put comes out of your mind manifests in your body. And then to know how you work with people to help them fine tune, hone in, master that capacity for pain freedom with your pain freedom method. Fuck, I'm just so pumped about that. So I'm very excited that you are here. And I'm honored that you are willing to share your story and your experience with the community today, and all of the wisdom that I'm going to ask you about, because I just think how you see the world and how you teach other people to see themselves is unbelievably powerful. It's not unbelievable, it's totally believable. It's extremely powerful. And I think almost like it's one of those things that now I look around and go, how is it that not everybody's doing this? Like, how is this not being taught to everybody? Because if you had this knowledge and this capacity, could literally save your own life, change the trajectory of every experience. And anyway, I'm excited. Can you tell?
I can feel your emotions. You're making me want to cry. Like I can feel the tears. That's part of the intuitiveness, right? The working with me, I get that. The hearing, the sensing, the feeling, especially the feeling. People, when I work with them, I can feel their physiological chronic pain, and then I intuitively get the emotion that they've become habitually addicted to. So first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. I feel like your mission on this planet is to blow the skirts up of every woman on this planet, to shake them up and allow them, to give them permission to do something very different in their life.
I find it fascinating that clarity about what it is that you're looking to manifest really comes from, or for the women I work with, you need permission to be able to want things first, right?
Yes.
So it gets very stuck in I don't know what I want. I want my kids to be happy. I want world peace. I want, I just want to be happy. I don't know what that looks like. Because I haven't fathomed that idea, to be able to visualize and then manifest, accordingly, as opposed to trying to manifest something you don't want, right? I don't want to feel this. I don't want.
We're really good at knowing what we don't want.
Yes.
We find it challenging to embrace what we do want, because sometimes we're conditioned by who we were raised, those beliefs, those perceptions. I talk about the goggles, like the lenses that you put on your eyes, and you look every day and you're really conditioned by those.
Yeah.
And you think that you have to have a 9-to-5 job, or that, it has to, this is a big one for blue collared town, which I live in, is you got to have a really good pension and really good benefits. We've not thought outside of the box, and thinking outside of the box. For example, yourself and myself, you doing a podcast and helping so many people. And I know there's other things that you do with empowering women and really becoming themselves instead of who they're conditioned to think that they should be, or from their title, where we're so much more than that. And thinking outside of that box of, we can maybe wake up at 8 o'clock and hang out with our children and our husbands, and then get all of our essentials of self-care. If we want to work out, go for a walk. If we want to journal, take a shower, then start our day. Maybe start our day at 11 o'clock in the afternoon and decide, today we're going to work 3 hours instead of, 10, which is,
right,
the base hours. And you wonder why people become so ill, or by the time where we talk about retirement. And for me, I believe I'm never going to retire. I love what I do. And to the day where I'm on, the opposite side of the grass, I feel like this is my life's mission. And I get so excited when I'm working with people, and as do you. You can, it just bleeds off of you energetically through all of your podcasts, and the just the little snippets people get to see on Instagram.
Right.
So,
and it's I'm with you 100%. This is not something I do and that I kind of like, this is breathing, right? So it doesn't stop. And so along with that whole, the 9 to 5, the 9 to 9, that whole experience of like what you're supposed to do, and building in more of like what feels right. Like I'm such an advocate of like, find your zone of genius, like that 3-hour time span where if you worked for those 3 hours, that's like working 8 hours when it's not that time, right? Like you're just so for me, I get up and I work because I'm that's when I'm jazzed, like 5 o'clock. My dream day is like 5 to noon. Then I'll shower. Right. And inside that 5 to noon includes journaling, self-care. I work out, but I might not shower yet because I'm just like I'm all cylinders are firing. Yes. And then noon, I'm like, oh, just be right. And that's, yes, please. Like that's because I can do that. The 4, maybe 5 hours of like solid, holy crap. For like my before times life, that's a 10, 12-hour day. Just because your brain is not on point, your body is not in where it's meant to be. Like you're just so out of whack, and you're constantly trying to realign all day long, which is energetically exhausting. And so then to accomplish anything feels hard, which is why I think people think work is hard. Work is not hard. No, work is work. It challenges you. Sure. Your brain grows. Yeah. You get tired, maybe, but it's not hard unless you are choosing a path that is hard for you. And I think we've been conditioned, just to add to that idea of conditioning, we're conditioned that if it isn't hard, it's not good.
Right.
Like you
and
didn't work
everybody thinks that it
enough.
should be, and everybody thinks, not everybody, sure, I don't want to paint everybody with the same brush, but the women that I work with, and even looking at entrepreneurship, I think we've been conditioned to think that everything should be hard to get to that, to get to the destination. And there's never a destination. But I love how we just jumped on this topic of this is what I love about the podcast. There's a certain agenda, but I want to dive a little bit deep into this, if this is okay, because absolutely, even for myself, this is something, a bigger teaching. And even I am still learning how to mold, because the person that I was in my 20s and in my 30s is very different to who I am, with my children a little bit. They're still fairly young, but they're a little bit more independent. Right. So now being in my 40s, my whole sleep pattern has changed, and my motivational times have changed. And before, the old conditioning, you would think, what is wrong with me? Like, why don't I have the same energy at 4:30 in the morning to get up and meditate that I used to in my 30s? And it's okay to change. So for me, I like to, so on some of my work days, I get up fairly early, 5:30, 6. But then my days, like today, I get up at 7. And then, but I keep within about an hour's window. Right. to those times. And for me, it's about getting up, having a coffee, spending time with my girls, journaling, then doing some work. So this is prior to showering, doing some work, and then working out. Because then what happens is when I work out, I always have to make sure I have a journal in front of me, because yes, the creative juices just start pouring out. I plug in, and I get those downloads.
Yeah.
And then shower, so on and so forth, then do a little bit more work. So even though it seems kind of fragmented, it really works.
I think it's really about getting super clear on how you process, because, and I think that we, again, conditioning, so conditioned to like work looks like this, right? It looks like out here stuff. And I'm with you. Like, I know that I will do a whole bunch of, my morning is like, my brain is going, bah, 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 and ideas are flying, things are happening. And then I work out. And of course, the physiology of that level of movement causes integration. So your brain, kind of like when you're sleeping, where your brain is doing all of that integration of information and pulling it together and making sense of it. The same thing happens when you're working out. It's like taking things and your unconscious goes, oh, your body's very busy right now. Cool, I'm on. And it just starts pulling the pieces together.
Yes.
Then you jump in the shower, please. That's like the unconscious mind's heaven. And everything just goes, oh, there it is. Yes. There's the package that it will be now in, all these ideas that were free floating and fabulous. And I write, I have glass walls in my shower, and I write in the steam. Although I'm going to get, Carrie had suggested those kids, like wax crayons that you can use in the tub. I'm like, I need that in the shower, because that's where all of my ideas come out. Like, here's the title comes out, the 3-word alliteration, all the pieces. And I'm like, there it is, there it is. Right.
Yes.
And
that's
then
a fabulous idea.
Yeah. And then, then I get all like this. I'm bathed and I brush my teeth and I might run a comb through my hair. And then there's something about that experience. It's almost like I'm now externally put together, as is my mind. And so then what I produce is kind of put together. Whereas in the morning, I'm like, coffee, hair, things, I don't know what's happening, but like ideas are flowing. But knowing that about myself, and just hearing your journey, very similar.
Yes.
But having that knowledge that the workout, when it's placed where it isn't something you do on top of working. It is part.
It's part of it.
It's part of the process.
It's part of the process.
When you look at all of the things that light you up, fill your cup, all of those parts, those are all part of working, right?
Yes, they are.
Like, they're not the thing you do. They're not separate.
No, they're not.
Even, like, I take, especially with the weather being as lovely as it has been today, it's raining and whatever. Rain is great. I love rain. But like a 15-minute, I call it a sunbathe, not that it's sunbathing, but I'm just like allowing the energy of the sun to almost like refuel me, and just silence, like a form of my own personal meditation, and then I get up and go back to work. Like, it's just this constant. And I know that you have some practices that you have incorporated. Can you tell me about that before? And
so I love that you just said that, because I just had my visualization. So I have this brown chair. It's this beautiful, soft, plush brown recliner that sits in front of an 8-foot picture window in the front of our house. Mm-hmm. And I will do what's called a 6-minute pause in the day, where I will set a timer on my phone, and I will just lay in the sun and just absorb the energy. So the goal is to not be on your phone and just to focus on breathing. And for me, there's different sequences of breathing that I do, especially if you're a beginner. This can be challenging because a lot of people that I work with, their diaphragm is pretty locked and they're just chest breathing.
Right.
And one of my favorite things to do is to decompress the nervous system throughout the day, because for myself, and some of the traumas that I had gone through as a child, my go-to was fight and flight all the time. So the breathing sequences I usually do is through the nose, breathing in through the nose for 3 and out through the nose for 6.
Okay.
And then if you get really good at that, then the next step to that is in through the nose for 4, out through the nose for 8. So I do that about midday, usually after lunch. And then prior to going to bed, I do that same type of breathing. So if you're a newbie, again, 3 in through the nose, out for 6 through the nose. If you're experienced, in through the nose for 4, out through the nose for 8.
Awesome.
And it really, it just brings you into this beautiful lull and what I call the present moment of being able to just be within yourself and not allow yourself to be anywhere else because you're focusing on the breathing.
Right.
So I do it midway through the day before I go to bed, and it actually changes. So if you're somebody who is conditioned to be in a fight and flight pattern, there's something called HRV, where it helps to heart rate variability. That's what HRV stands for. And that's basically a snapshot of your nervous system. It decompresses your nervous system very, very fast. And your goal is to have a higher HRV. So I have a monitor. I also have my my Oura ring that I track, and there's many other devices out there that track it. But I will tell you, it's morning and night how I feel during the day, and being able to process information, being able to be creative, because if I'm in that zone of fight and flight through the day, trying to get everything done, or maybe we have deadlines, right? We put the blinders on and our heart starts going, we feel scattered, we start, making mistakes, hurting ourselves, cutting something, you cut your finger, that's just an example. And we don't think that one has to do with another when they absolutely do. And we're allowed, here's the other thing, you're giving yourself permission to be calm, to be in the state of peace. We think that we're going to get things done better and faster if we're in a state of panic and rush. Right. Which that's another conditioning for myself growing up. If I just get it done faster, and that's the yang, right? That's the masculine. Get it done, get it done, get it done. It'll be good. You'll show up with the men.
I have that particular mindset of get it done faster. I still find myself, my brain will go there. If I have 1,000 things to do the dishes, make the dinner, do the and I got to go to the bathroom, I will race to get everything done before I go to the bathroom. It's almost like a little game I play with my body.
Right.
Right. Like, and it's insane, but I'm like, okay, just to get all these, go faster. Everything is fast. I have to fucking pee. Go pee. Right. Like,
it's a human function.
And it's not like the bathroom's in another building. Like, it's literally right there. And it's not, but it's something about I've this momentum idea that if I stop doing, I'll get this and I'll somehow not do the dishes. Yeah, that's unlikely. Like, whew. Okay. So Janna, I know I'd heard the story and then we chatted a little bit earlier this year. My God, fucking time. Sometimes I feel like
blows by.
Yeah. Blows by. And then it's like stopped in other instances. Anyway, when you had shared that with me, it's extremely moving and inspiring. So please, if you will, let us know what transpired for you that brought you to this place, this awareness and understanding. Because of course, like I'd said, it's not something that's common knowledge. People aren't really living into this as the norm. And so I know that for you, it also wasn't the norm, and it was something you had to sort of explore and uncover for yourself. So what happened and what brought you to this moment?
So when I was 19 years old, I was in 2 major car accidents. Here in Ontario, there's a major highway we call the 401. First car accident, my seatbelt broke. I took the windshield out with my face and broke the dash with my legs. And it was my legs that allowed me not to exit the vehicle via my head. I did sustain a head and neck injury from that. And then 3 weeks later, I was in a rollover accident and I sustained spinal injuries. I almost broke my spine in half, which was unbelievable, right in the upper part, the thoracic part of the chest area. And I went down this road of, oh my gosh, I basically was work. And that was, it took me off work for probably a good 4 months. And I healed from those injuries through conventional therapy, which was essentially how I found my own practicing, my modality that I originally went into, which is called myomasology, where it looks at the body holistically as a whole unit, not just, oh, I've got shoulder pain. It looks at what is going on with the body as a whole. I had gone to conventional PT, chiropractic, and as well as massage therapy, but ultimately it was the myomasology that really helped me heal my body from those car accidents. Now, fast forward about 18 months after the healing of those accidents, and I was in a relationship and thought I was going to marry this person, was, over the moon. And one day I had gone to bed, and the next day I had woken up with horrific. When I say horrific, I mean just moving my head, even moving my eyes, because if you're not well aware, even moving your eyes contracts certain muscles in your body. So I had horrific neck and mid back and lower back pain, to the point where even breathing was a chore for me. And what I didn't realize then was that the emotional turbulence that I was going through, having the carpet ripped from beneath my feet, the person didn't love me anymore, ultimately my reality crumbling at that point in time in my life, what happened was it unleashed Pandora's box. So all of the emotions that I was feeling in that present moment brought forward all of my emotions from my past, not realizing some of the traumas that I had gone through. And it was like somebody flipped the switch, and I started remembering things as a child. And even as I talk about it right now, I'm getting a sheet of goosebumps, because we spend so much time suppressing and repressing our emotions. So if you're not aware of what that means, suppressing is when you consciously suppress something. So let's say, Dion, you had a disagreement with your husband, and then you have to then jump on a podcast, right? Or you have to go into work. Typically we're talking a 9 to 5. You have to put that mask on like you're okay, because it's not okay to talk about your emotions in the workplace. It's not okay to, present yourself as crying or being emotional. So we suppress it, we tuck it down, and we, put our nice coats on, we do our hair, paint our makeup, buy our Louis Vuitton shoes and bag, and we pretend like we're okay. Mm-hmm. Whereas repression is unconscious, where something has happened so horrifically to you that your brain has protected you and has repressed it. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, you may not remember the memory, but you have the residue of the emotion from that experience. And here's where a lot of people get confused, where they don't understand why they feel so unsafe, no matter what situation they're in. Whether it's a new friend that you've just met, you go out for coffee and you feel this edginess underneath your skin, or you feel that anxiousness behind you, or playing in I talk about the emotions that play in the background. And a lot of people think, well, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me and I feel anxious. And then we go to our doctors, we end up on antidepressants, any type of medication that's out there for anxiety. And now I'm going to say this, I'm going to make sure I disclaimer this. There is nothing wrong with Western medicine. There's a time and place absolutely for it. When I was younger, I had been on antidepressants. But what I didn't realize, the root cause was the trauma that I had gone through as a child, being physically, emotionally, and sexually abused. And majority of that was suppressed and repressed. And then I went through this emotional turmoil in my 20s, not realizing that it had basically unplugged the plug, and everything was just spraying out, like hitting a jugular vein, hitting your jugular vein was just spraying out. And that spinning out of control, the best feeling that I could describe is when somebody rips the carpet from beneath your feet, but there's no floor and you're just free falling, and you don't feel like there's an end to it. So during that time, when I now connect it, I had woken up that next day where and the first thing I thought of was, did I sleep wrong? Did I hurt myself?
Right.
Did I pick something up? Right. This is the typical, when I work with people, this is the typical thing. I must have slept wrong. That's why I have that shoulder pain. Or I must have lifted something wrong. That's why I have that back pain. And now I will tell you, there are certain people that, yes, it is a postural opportunity where you might need to work on your posture and alignment, where you have some muscles that are longer and shorter, which is part of what I've done in my clinic. But then there's others who I've worked on them in my clinic, and they still have that underlyment of chronic pain. It's gone for just a short second, but then it comes back within a day, day and a half. So that was me. And the road to understanding that there is an emotional connection to pain was, I started to ask, because I would go to the doctors. I went from practitioner to practitioner in my own practice of myomassology, and I was not gaining relief, meaning long-term relief, right? You go in, you have somebody work on the muscles, work on the tissues, make sure your spine's aligned, and then you gain pain relief, right? That's ultimately what we do in conventional therapy. But for chronic pain sufferers, it's like working on a brick of concrete, where their tissues are so bound up that no matter what type of therapy you have on it, you don't gain relief. And the other thing that I realized in my 20s was, I would have days that were really super terrible, where I could hardly get out of bed. And then there were days where I was functionable. And I have a high pain tolerance. I can really work through pain and get myself going and moving. But there were literally days where I felt like somebody, my body was like stabbing, burning. Anytime I'd move, it felt like I was being electrocuted type of pain. Right. So there was days that weren't so bad and days that were super bad. So that's what started me on the quest of asking, okay, what is going on? Why do I have days that I don't have as much pain, and then days where I'm super chronic? Right. What's the difference? And then when I started putting it together, now this wasn't just, months in the making. This has been years. And going back through my journals. And it's funny because even over sitting on my chair, I brought out a bunch of journals, and I started to go back reading through them and understanding a little bit even further as to what happened. So I revisit my journals quite frequently. And if you are listening right now and you have journals, I highly recommend going back and reading through them, because you understand the evolution of who you were, right, who you have become, and who you truly can be because you want to be, not because of who you have been conditioned to be. Right. So when I started to realize that when I was having horrific chronic pain, it was those days that my emotions were in the toilet, or I talk about swimming in the septic tank. You're out back and you just nosedived into your septic tank, versus swimming in the ocean, swimming in a lake, where you feel light, airy, you feel happy, content, peaceful. That's the biggest aha for my moments, where I was like, okay, there's a great link here. So, and then it's about understanding why I was suppressing emotions. Why don't I want to feel these emotions, right? Shame, blame, unsafe, angry. So it would go from frustration, anger to rage very quickly in a situation. So I didn't have the emotional resiliency to sit down and look at a situation and be like, okay, this is why I feel this way. Instead, I had those default settings from when I was a child of feeling unsafe, feeling frustration because I didn't want somebody in my body space, right? This is not appropriate. And understanding and feeling through those emotions, allowing yourself to feel them, because you have emotions for a reason as a human being, and they are navigational systems for you. Right. But instead, what we do is we want to pretend like life is okay. Who wants to hang their dirty laundry out to dry? We don't want to talk about it, but what is wrong with talking about your emotions? What is wrong with feeling your emotions? So that is quite the journey for myself that I went down. And I don't want to say I'm quite the open book, but I don't really have anything to tuck and hide in regards to what I've gone through in my past, because the beautiful part of what I've gone through in my past is who I've become today and what it is that I teach. And I feel like that's kind of the bigger proponent for so many of us. When you really look at, like, even for yourself, Dion, what you teach and how you teach in the podcast setting, and bringing people on who have those similar values and visions for the world of women. So if you're a person right now that you feel like you're like, I'm not feeling comfortable in work and I'm just going to pretend like it's okay because I have the uncertainty or the fear or the lack, right, of gaining more money, right, in a different setting. You're putting yourself in the shoes of who raised you, who conditioned you, who, and whether that was your parents, siblings, grandparents. So understand that if you have chronic headaches, I've worked with people who, I mean, every type of pain. I know that I talk about, I really specialize in neck and back pain, but somebody who is not on their journey for career wise, where they really truly want to be, they were experiencing severe jaw pain. And then they've gone back into the conditioning and the emotional suppression or repression of, you can't speak like that. You're not supposed to be heard like that in this lifetime. You're supposed to be behind a desk doing, administrative work, and shut your mouth and don't go any further than that. Because we as women are not to really be seen or heard. It's behind the scenes of being, and I hear this more and more and more and more. And the beauty of it is as you start to allow yourself to feel, because feelings are real and you're allowed to feel them. You're allowed to feel pissed. You're allowed to feel anxiousness. You're allowed to feel unsafe, or you're allowed to feel fear. But the difference is how long you stay in it and how your mind goes back to it. Because what happens is by the age of 35, we're pretty much conditioned to who we are, right? We are our personality. So rewind, 1 to 7 years is like our imprinting years, right? And even in utero, we don't realize what we carry. And even going back 15 generations through epigenetics, there's even scientific proof that I carry my mother's wounds. I carry my mother's trauma and my mother's mother and my mother's 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 mother, right? So, and it goes back 15 generations. I know, blow your brain, right? You're like, wow.
I know.
So 1 to 7, or in utero to 7, is the imprinting years. And then from 8 to, going into your 20s, and I've got it all broken up in the program so that you understand how you absorb, how you project, how you create on a day-to-day basis based on those emotions. But what happens is your brain habitually becomes addicted to those emotions because you had this certain experience in your life. You created those emotions to begin with. They are your default settings, so that when that same energetic occurrence comes, you go to those emotions over and over again. And the one biggest thing that happens when I'm on discovery calls with clients or potential clients is how to get out of that loop. Because that was my default settings, was how to get out of that default loop. And the pain whisper part that comes into play when I say to women, you literally become your own pain whisperer. Because I even have a friend who wrote me, always called me her pain whisperer, but literally it's just giving you the tools, retraining your brain and developing you as a present and future self instead of defaulting to your past self, right? You become your own pain whisperer. So literally, as you start allowing yourself to feel, which this was my experience, as I was like, oh, what is wrong with feeling angry? As long as I'm not hurting anybody and not hurting myself, right? Allowing myself to feel anger, understanding why I feel anger, where originally I created those feelings of anger to begin with, those default settings. You then understand, you become the watcher. You're like, oh my goodness. So I'm in this situation and it's playing in front of me and I feel a little uneasy, feel a little anxious, right? And there's many facets as to why anxiousness comes up and why fear comes up, which I deep dive into in my program. But just so people understand that your physiological pain is more emotional than what you realize as physical, right? Going back to, oh, my neck hurts today. I must have slept wrong. Okay, so let's rewind. What happened when you went to bed last night? Were you upset? Did you work through some feelings? Did you journal, right? A lot of people are just pissed or they're upset about something. They don't want to talk about it anymore and they just go to sleep. So how do you think that manifests in your body? So scientifically, what were we going to say, Dion?
I was just going to say, I mean, it's one of those things where we kind of forget that feelings are things that you feel because it's a chemical released that then that flows through your body and has in an interaction with the cells of your body, the muscle cells, the organs, all of those things. And like they have an impact. So
Yes.
whether it's your neck or your back or wherever that may be, and I'm sure there's way more information about like what sort of emotions go where in relation to energy
Yes.
systems. But again, we disassociate what's going on, or what we're perceiving as far as our consciousness and the meat suit we're walking around in. Like, so, and it's like, they're connected and they're
absolutely connected.
constantly influencing each other. So, you release the chemicals because you're having the feelings, because you've been triggered to go down that road. You feel muscle pain, and then your body, as you had said, you get this sort of addicted because it gets into this pattern of like, oh, this is where we like to be. This, because your body likes equilibrium, even if it's the
Yes.
crappiest of spaces. They're like, but we don't change, so we're functioning at a -1. Good, everything's -1. So
Yes.
we'll send signals to your brain to think more thoughts that keep you feeling crappy.
And that same pattern.
And so, yeah, okay, sure, you may have slept wrong, and by that I mean you allowed crap to happen in your head. That's what was wrong. That's how I see that.
And you didn't. No. Thank you for that feedback. And yes, you are correct. It's that loop. And I want to, so there's two scenarios I want to really bring forward, because I also have magnificently been able to work with people who have digestive issues. So Crohn's, colitis. I myself in my 20s I was diagnosed with IBS, where I was defecating blood all the time. And that was just a symptom. That was a symptom of the chronic stress that my body was under all the time. And what happens is like, for example, when you feel unsafe, so let's say you're out at a cafe with a friend and all of a sudden you start feeling that feeling, but you don't understand that feeling in your body. You don't understand that it's the unsafe feeling because maybe there's a certain person that walked in all of a sudden, and that energy that you feel from that person, right? Because we're all energetic beings. You pick it up in your body, and then you're just like, wow, what the hell's going on? I feel anxiousness, and I kind of feel at the pit of my stomach, this tightness, or in near my rib cage, and all of a sudden I have like this feeling in the back of my head where you're starting with that headache. So people don't realize, and then you're eating too. So for example, that's your body potentially going into fight and flight. And what is physiologically happening, right? The hypothalamus is sending a message down the vagus nerve, right? Which goes down to the adrenals, which sit above your kidneys. It hits the adrenals, your body produces cortisol. Now, cortisol is used for many things in our body, such as heart regulation, temperature, waking up, being alert. So for example, in that scenario, your body will produce cortisol. It'll shunt and pull all the blood away from your digestive tract, sends it to your limbs, dilates your pupils so that you're ready to run, right? As if this person is going to attack you. So if you're a person that is, for example, has been sexually abused as a child, you have that energetics within you. You feel those emotions within you. So fight and flight is a go-to for you. And then once you try to eat, right, you don't have the proper digestive enzymes, which that's how I just want everybody to understand, that's how you start on that road of, I don't understand why I can't digest something, and feeling like my stomach is going to blow up, or you feel very bloated, or you feel like you can't even smell something without having digestive issues, right? So
and then you add in the complement, the how it exacerbates, so your stress hormones, cortisol, and then the myriad of other hormones that are involved in that cascade, they are influencing your microflora, which are then in and of themselves decreasing your capacity to digest in a way that is good for you. And that information is constantly being communicated between your intestinal tract and your bloodstream, and then it's going back and forth. And so then the stress process then instantly creates a digestive issue. Now you've created this pattern of stress goes up, and the bacteria in my gut go, oh, this is what we do. We're going to have this massive problem. We're going to not function correctly. Not only that, certain bacteria that thrive in that environment will then start to overpopulate. And then you have this constant, then it's happening even when the stress level just goes boop, like it's right.
Thank you. I like that. The whole little boop. It could be just one little boop where your child is like, I don't want to be on online learning right now, or I don't want to I don't want to eat this certain food. And you're like, that little boop ends up being a boom. Yes. So in addition to that, for chronic pain sufferers, I want you to realize that when you suppress and repress emotions, your brain will send a signal to certain parts of your body, your nerves, your ligaments, your tissues. It will temporarily deprive oxygenated blood to certain parts of those areas of your body, not enough to damage them, but enough to cause a whole horrific amount of chronic pain. And when people start to allow, this is the where we talk about the pain, like the whispering feeling in pain freedom method, is usually about the second module, the second or third week, where they get that instant relief and they're like, what the hell just happened? Because they started to allow themselves to feel those not so great emotions, and then navigating the road of understanding where they came from in the first place.
Right. It's like and this is going to be a very simple statement for something that's very complex and powerful. But it's like the pain freedom method offers you it allows you to bypass the fear of fear.
Yes.
Right. So the fear of fear, then, well, that's the suppress, push down. I'm so afraid of what these emotions will do for me. And then we're afraid of that. And then we manifest all kinds of things as a result of that. When if you can bypass that, feeling the feelings is nowhere near what you thought feeling feelings would feel like.
Right.
Say that 10 times fast.
I love it.
Do you know something that came up that I had a question about? You had talked about having the good days and then the terrible days and then the slightly less terrible days.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what maybe you experienced, or perhaps what you're seeing in your clients, is how, like, the length of time we are willing to justify pain because of days that are not as painful. You know, like, oh, it must not be that bad. Oh, today's a really good day. It's almost like we then forget how crappy yesterday was and the day before, or how, again, that disassociation between thoughts and sort of feelings and then what's happening in our body. We're not connecting lash outs with the kids. We're not connecting problematic behavior. And then we're just focusing on, which is nice to focus on, that you're having a good day. But when it negates, when you're just like, oh no, I'm okay. I don't need to go see anybody. I don't need to talk to anybody about this. I definitely don't need to do all that emotional healing they keep telling me I should do. Like, right. That experience with your, like, when you do finally see clients, how do they describe that? Like, how long do people stay there in that pattern of back and forth? And if they are there, what is something that you would suggest, like, to introduce even sort of a new perspective or a thought? Like, how do you get from justifying that to taking ownership of it, I think, is maybe the question.
So one of the biggest things when I work with individuals, I want to make sure that they're ready. That's number one.
Yeah.
Because there are individuals that only, and this was me, that only identify with themselves as chronic pain sufferers.
Yep.
And they want to share their story. And they want people to, because the underlinement is a lot of time they haven't felt loved most of their life, which that was my issue. And they want to stay in that pain pattern because it gains love. It gains people's attention to embrace them. So individuals that are in that pattern, they have to be ready. If they stay in that pattern, they are not a person that I feel like would be ready for PFM or pain freedom method, because I bring them through an interview process to psychologically make sure that they're ready. So somebody that is experiencing the chronic pain and then having not so bad days, your chronic pain outweighs your days of not having such chronic pain days. And the difference is when you're feeling those great emotions, they're short-lived because you don't know how to stay in them, because your brain habitually goes back to the pattern of not so great, self-loathing, hatred for yourself, feeling unsafe, feeling frustrated, anger, rage, all of those same shame, body shame. Even for myself, like I suffered with an eating disorder for over 12 years. And that was my own self mutilation and punishment, because if everybody around me didn't love me, why the hell should I love myself?
Right.
And obviously I needed to be punished, which that happens so many times. And even now in the space that I'm at, I just want to take that inner child, or that little person that I was, and just give her a hug and some love, because ultimately here is the biggest wake up call. And this is what it comes down to. You are responsible for yourself. You came into this world alone. You are going to leave this world. You are the only one you will never leave nor lose in this lifetime. That's the one thing that I can promise you. So you are responsible for loving yourself, not your parents, not your siblings, not your friends, not your aunts and uncles, you and you alone. Now, is it nice to have family members that love you? Absolutely. Is it awesome to have a mom who's caring and loving, and a father that's caring and loving? Absolutely. But the bigger picture of growing as a soul is understanding what you're responsible for. And when I discovered that was my breaking point. That when we talk about the breaking point and the aha moment, it was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's responsible for this. I'm the one that's responsible for navigating. Yeah. So the people that are out there right now that are suffering from chronic pain, listen, you can spend the rest of your life feeling really crappy. You can spend the rest of your life addicted to pain pills, because that was me. And or addicted to going to therapies, which, hey, you're allowed to. You are completely free to do that. But there is a better way, and you have the power built within you to make that choice.
Yeah.
And the awakening point is knowing that you have those good days versus the really super terrible days. I don't want to say they're good days. They're okay days. They're days where you can function.
I think the idea of, you had mentioned the watcher, right? Being someone going, well, that's interesting that's happening. Oh, okay. I say all the people in my head, where are we?
Yes.
We're feeling this. And I think as you tap into that idea of being an observer, whether you are going to integrate meditation into your world, or any type of breath work, or something where you can be with yourself for a minute, it's probably a good time to ask yourself, what is the secondary gain that I'm getting from being here?
Yes.
Right. What is it giving to me that I think I need to get from somebody else? So that idea of love and your lovability, like whether or not you are lovable, or powerful or worthy or enough, and pick a word that really resonates. But like you said, that comes from within. And when it comes from within, then you can start to take that action towards moving beyond what's this pain experience, because the secondary gain, like the thing that you think you're getting from this, you can give to yourself without pain.
That's right.
Right. So if you're hearing that, it is a very common process. It's part of the way that the brain and the mind and the inner critic and everything going on in there functions. And so if you find yourself there, you are a good, fabulous person. There's nothing wrong with you, but now it's your time to do something about that that information.
That's right.
Okay.
There's more people. There's so many people out there that don't even realize it, right? Because here's the thing. And I want you to think about that. The little duck call.
Yeah.
That's what your pain is. Because when you feel chronic pain, what can you think about, Dion? You can't think about anything else except for that pain.
Right.
Let alone navigate anything in your life. So I want you to think about that decoy scenario, because that literally is what's happening, because you don't want to feel your emotions. You don't want to deal with it. You don't want to move through it. Instead, you want to keep into that diseased state. And
it's almost like, you had brought up the decoy. Now I'm thinking of like plastic ducks, but it's like, that's how you're living. Like you're not embodied. You're not, in this vessel. Your soul isn't walking around freely. Like you're literally stuck in a plastic duck doing well.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay. Janna, tell us, I know you're working on some fantastic things right now to help support your clients and people everywhere who are suffering from chronic pain. Tell us a little bit about what's going on and what we could possibly take advantage of through your work.
Okay, first and foremost, if you are new to hearing this unbelievable idea, and concept, I want you to go, so Pain Freedom Method is a 16-week program, but just if you're new to this, I want you to go on to, and Dion, I already gave you the link to this, to Cracking the Pain Code. It's a free resource. It's a PDF that walks you through a 3-step process that helps you pluck and extract what your pain is possibly telling you. And you're free to book in for a 15-minute discovery call with myself to help move through that and see what the potentials are there for you.
Awesome.
The next part, when I talk about women then whispering their own pain away and then living the life they're meant to live, because a lot of people that are in pain, they can't even think past tomorrow. They are lulling in either they're in a job that they don't like. It's really sucking their soul out of their body. And this is what has happened in working with more women is it's been more women that are in a job that they really don't like and they want to get out into something different. So what's unbelievable that has been starting to be birthed is something called the Sacred Creators Design. Yes. So in that, I work with women who are potentially in a job that they're not loving, and we help extract what their true design is to be in this lifetime. And then most importantly, so that's Sacred Creators Design. And then the next part is the Pain Freedom Sleep program. So this is huge because I went through this myself. In my late 30s, I all of a sudden didn't sleep well any longer. And you want to talk about not having emotional resilience. So I can teach you emotional resilience. We can repattern and train your brain to a new way of thinking and feeling so that, yes, you become the watcher. Anybody that walks in the room, it no longer electrocutes your nervous system, so on and so forth. But if you didn't have good sleep, guess what?
Out the way.
Our sleep quality. So there's something called human growth hormone that we produce in our deep sleep. So you have light sleep, REM sleep, deep sleep. And in our deep sleep, we should have between 15 and 20, maybe even plus % of deep sleep. And if you're not producing that growth hormone. And what happens is that is the hormone that helps you rejuvenate your tissues, repair muscles. So if you're not getting that, guess what? You're going to feel even more pain. It's going to exacerbate your chronic pain.
I have a question because that just went bing. So is human growth hormone part of the cascade system off of the stress cycle, right? Doesn't it is part of the replenishing part?
Yes.
So for those that maybe don't know, when you stress, there's sort of a series of hormones that are released in it's timed, and it outcomes, then the stressor is reduced, and then your body recuperates, and it has a whole bunch of different hormones that show up to sort of rebalance you. Now, if you're in chronic stress, you never get there, the other side. And so your body will be craving that. So that I would envision is part of the process. So if you're doing all the other things for your stress, but you're not sleeping well, then you're still not be able to get to that second half of the cascade, which is necessary to get back to the sort of the high level balance that you want to be in.
Right. The sleep program is something that's going to be coming out. I'm just formulating it right now. But what I'm going to be doing is what's called the Pain Freedom Sleep Challenge, which will be held in my group Pain Freedom Method on Facebook.
Janna, this has been fucking awesome. I could talk to you all day. Love, 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 love. So if you have been listening to the podcast for longer than a minute, you know that I'm going to ask Janna for a little nugget of wisdom, mainly because we said so much today that I really just want every listener to feel like they can walk away with something, go, oh, I can hang on to that. I can hang on to that. So what is it that you would share with our people today?
I want to share two.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, because there's one I already reviewed, and I want to say this, and this is a saying that I live by every single day, and I want every woman out there, if even if you're not in pain, live by this saying. I am the only one. I will never leave nor lose. I've come into this lifetime all by myself. I'm going to leave all by myself. So I am responsible for my soul and my, did you call it meat body or meat suit? Meat suit. So I'm responsible for my meat suit. And then last but not least, just because all doors open does not mean I need to walk through all of them. Every opportunity is here to present themselves, but it doesn't mean that you need to just dive into everything, because as a woman, we want to do it all. We want to be it all. We want to see it all. But guess what? you can pick and choose what really fires up your soul and really makes you jive and thrive as a human being and as a soul.
Yes.
So just because all doors open and windows doesn't mean you have to walk through all of them. Choose what fits for you.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who has tuned in to this amazing episode with Janna. Definitely hop on to the Crack the Pain code and get that resource and start on unpacking this for yourself. I am pretty sure we're all going to just, through these tiny steps, we're going to make this the norm, where we are connecting our minds and our bodies all day long, every day, and pass that epigenetically on to the next generation.
Yes.
Please. Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Join Dion again next week to learn more about what you can do to go from hot mess to awesomeness.